Most of you aren't just listening right now. You're driving, cleaning, and even exercising. But what if you could be saving money by switching to Progressive? Drivers who save by switching save nearly $750 on average, and auto customers qualify for an average of 7 discounts. Multitask right now. Quote today at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $744 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2022 and May 2023. Potential savings will vary. Discounts not available in all states and situations.
The IKEA Business Network is now open for small businesses and entrepreneurs. Join for free today to get access to interior design services to help you make the most of your workspace, employee well-being benefits to help you and your people grow, and amazing discounts on travel, insurance, and IKEA purchases, deliveries, and more. Take your small business to the next level when you sign up for the IKEA Business Network for free today by searching IKEA Business Network.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Working Overtime, the bi-weekly advice-focused catch-up to working's well-done steak. I'm your host, Ronald Young Jr.
And I am your other host, Isaac Butler. I've noticed we're doing all these steak-related tags at the top of the show. I don't even eat beef anymore. I don't know why we're doing this. Oh, man.
It's in my head now, Isaac. I don't know.
God. What are we talking about today, Ronald?
Okay, Isaac, to catch you up, as you know, in my last session of Working Overtime, we talked about unexpected interruptions and what it takes to complete work during them. Well, to continue that line of thinking, my life is beginning to return to some semblance of what you would consider normal. And now what I've been dealing with is the stress of playing catch up to the mountain of work and the requests that I put on hold while I was dealing with my mother's illness and then subsequent death. So it feels like in a lot of ways, I've just been kind of coping and existing. But now there are expectations now that work resumes. And honestly, that is stressful. Have you ever had to deal with the return to work from any interruptions? You don't have to get into the specifics of what the interruptions were, but did you cope with the stress of the return to work afterwards?
Yeah, definitely. And first of all, let me also say, I know we talked about this off mic a little bit, but I am really so sorry for your loss. And I know how much your mother meant to you. And I'm glad you're still here on working overtime. But if you wanted to have taken a break, I would totally have understood, because
thank you, Isaac.
It is really hard to come back. It's so hard. I've had 3 big disruptions over the past year. I had COVID, which, knocked me out for like a week. But then I don't feel like my brain really returned to normal for probably 2.5 months. I could still get work done, but I got mentally fatigued very easily. My daughter had some health problems. As soon as those were resolved, my dad went into the hospital for 2 months, and so there's been some really difficult navigation that had to get done there. Sometimes that's been, I'm getting less stuff done now. And sometimes it's been like, oh shit, nothing is going to get done for the foreseeable future,
Yeah, no, I 100% get it. It feels like the moment when you're in it, when you're just like, nothing's getting done. And then at some point when you're kind of through it or you've poked your head through it, now you're like, I have to get everything done. Like this might have cost me in some cases.
Right.
And I feel like now, like I said, I'm returning to what I would consider to be a normal routine for me, as normal as it can be now anyway. But as I considered that return, I'm wondering where to start when it comes to catching up. So here's what I've done so far. I've emailed clients about the status of the work, and a lot of folks were gracious about letting me take some time. So now I'm reaching out to them to tell them I'm ready to get back into it. But that's just step one. By now, deadlines have been blown, and I'm trying to resist the urge to rush to complete everything, but stuff still needs to get done. How do you think about prioritizing tasks when you've fallen behind, Isaac?
It's really hard because as a freelancer, you tend to have long-term projects and short-term projects, right?
Yes.
And the reason why the long-term projects are long-term is because they require an enormous amount of work, way more than the short-term projects. And so you do have to keep going with those while you're completing the short-term stuff. So this is how I tend to think about it. First is the things that reasonably can just be put off. Right? If there's a deadline you can get an extension on, if there's something that isn't time sensitive, just ask for a new deadline, get it off your plate so you're not thinking about it, right? If there's I'm talking about like a short-term thing, but it's not time sensitive, move that short-term off. That is not a priority. The next stuff is, the stuff that's due in a year or whatever, right? Figure out how much of it you can do in little pieces day by day. And then, just know that there will be more fallow times where there's less short-term work and you're going to get more caught up with that. And then the third thing is stuff that is really deadline sensitive. I have to deliver a podcast episode to someone by Thursday. I have to make this jewelry to mail to someone who bought it off my Etsy store, or they're going to, tank my rating or whatever it is, Those things do get a higher priority. The way to think about it, I think, is that you're literally triaging, right? You're just triaging the stuff that's coming in. And sometimes when you're super busy, regardless of whether it's because you're coming back from illness or a death in the family, or just because suddenly lots of people want to work with you, you do reach a point where you just have to triage shit and you just have to make your peace with it. It sucks, but you got to do it.
I like that. I like that. I like that you've thought about this, that like there's parts of it looking at it saying, I don't know how to do this, but knowing that it has been done and there's other people who have kind of gone through it is very helpful information. And when we come back, we'll dive deeper into a game plan for returning to work and recovering from interruptions.
This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Most of you listening right now are probably multitasking. Yep. While you're listening, you're probably also driving, cleaning, exercising, or maybe even grocery shopping. But if you're not in some kind of moving vehicle, there's something else you can be doing right now. Getting an auto quote from Progressive Insurance. It's easy, and you could save money by doing it right from your phone. Drivers who save by switching to Progressive save nearly $750 on average, and auto customers qualify for an average of 7 discounts. Discounts for having multiple vehicles on your policy, being a homeowner, and more. So, just like your favorite podcast, Progressive will be with you 24/7, 366 days a year, so you're protected no matter what. Multitask right now. Quote your car insurance at progressive.com to join the over 28 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $744 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2022 and May 2023. Potential savings will vary. Discounts not available in all states and situations.
This episode is brought to you by SAP. First, the bad news. SAP Business AI won't help you generate cubist versions of your family's holiday photos, but it will help you understand which supplier is best to help you roll out your plant-based packaging in Southeast Asia, identify the training your junior project manager needs to rise up the ranks, and automate repetitive tasks while you focus on big innovations, so you can be ready for the next opportunity. Revolutionary technology, real-world results. That's SAP Business AI. Hey listeners, Isaac Butler here. Do you have any tips or questions about the creative process? Well, get in touch and share your advice or your advice needs. You can email us at working@slate.com, or even better, call us and leave a voicemail at 304-933-9675. That's 304-933-WORK.
And we're back. So Isaac, like I said, I've touched base with clients to let them know I'm back, and now I'm prioritizing work to make sure I know what to get to first. The next step for me typically is to start getting pretty granular with lists. I write a list of everything that needs to be done in order of the priority, and then I start diving into it. Typically, by having the list ready to go, it makes it easier to visually conceptualize when I'll be in a place when the work is finished, even though it's never really finished. How do you feel about lists, Isaac?
It's funny. If June was here, she would just say the exact same thing because she loves a list. She loves organizing things. She's a dedicated bullet journaler and things like that. I love lists, but I'm not great at using them. I find them really valuable. I've never thought about the psychological component that it convinces you that the work is doable. I think that's really smart. What I often do is I make a really huge list. Maybe I prioritize it. I start getting things crossed off, and then I forget about it. I lose the notebook that it's in. Like it just goes away. A month goes by, and then I'm like, oh, shit, I'm losing track of stuff again. And then I make a new big list. And part of that is like This is going to sound like bragging, and I don't mean it that way because I feel not responsible for it at all. Like, a natural strength that I have is a very good memory, right? But that actually has led me to over rely on it and to create working systems that assume a great memory, right?
Yes.
And so when that starts to break down is when I have too much stuff going on for my memory to hold on to, and then I externalize that into making a list. I often actually find that the most important part of the list, maybe you disagree, I don't know. There are people for whom the most important part of the list, crossing the thing off, right? That feels so good. For me, it's actually the making of the list. It is the making of the list that is the most helpful, and I will usually remember almost everything that's on the list once the list is actually made, and that's probably why I lose the notebook that it's in or whatever. You know what I mean?
I think it's both. I think I absolutely agree. I think it's very satisfying to cross something off your list, but having a list for me provides a sense of security that I've actually shaped the tasks and I don't have to rely on my memory.
You know, Stanislavski, the kind of creator of modern acting, which is, you know, he's one of the main subjects of my last book. One of the things that he talked about, because it was the early 20th century and, you know, factories were being rationalized and all of that stuff, and he was also owned factories, was this idea that creative work, the process by which something is made, you can just break that up. The way that you break up an assembly line, right? Like, first you have the screw and then it goes in the 2x4, you know, whatever it is. You could tell how handy I am.
Yes.
Anyway,
the screw into the 2x4.
Yeah, exactly. You know that old adage, putting the screw into the 2x4. And so what Stanislavski would do is, like, if he had to create a character, if he was playing a character in a play, he would break the character up into its constituent parts, which he called bits. And then also the process of creating the character into the constituent part, because he was like, playing a character over 2 hours or whatever, that is actually too overwhelming to consider doing, like, on the first day of rehearsal. Like, no one can conceptualize an entire character on day one. What you can do is like a thing. So do that thing, and then the next day do that thing and another thing, and just keep going until you have the character.
Yes. I love that idea. It just feels like incremental, which is perfect. At this portion, even breaking it down into lists or doing the Stanislavski method, even doing that, for me at that point, that's where it gets kind of hectic for me, because somewhere between lists and executions, I absolutely freeze in fear and anticipation of this mountain of work that I still need to actually catch up on. And in the past few weeks, that's where I've been living, in the frozen tundra. Isaac, do you experience this freeze? How do you manage it?
Yes, and I manage it by playing video games. I just play a lot of video games. There's this new one. Have you played Dave the Diver?
Someone just told me about Dave the Diver. Should I play it?
It's so good. You're right. Okay. You run a sushi restaurant at night, and during the day you have to go catch the fish for that sushi restaurant, and then eventually you meet like a race of undersea people and help them solve their problems. It's just like,
oh my God, I'm in.
It's so good. Dave the Diver is how I manage that. No, I'm joking, but I'm not entirely joking, right?
Yeah.
The thing that most people I think have when the pile of work gets too scary and like they don't quite know how to break it up, or even when they break it up, it's like, oh, now it just looks like an even scarier, larger pile, is they just walk away from it. You know, that's the freeze. And when that happens to me, my version of that is less being frozen than just being very easily distractible. Like anything just will come up and I'll be like, oh, I'll just go do that. You know, I'm like a goldfish or something. It's when I, as my own employee, am the least reliable. So here's some ways, like, the good thing is, you know, one thing I've learned through a lot of therapy is there are certain things that happen that, like, actually you're not going to change that happens. What you can change is what you do in response to that happening. Like, I'm always going to get that distractible. So what do I do instead? Well, I put myself in an environment that is conducive to work. If the TV is too distracting, I go to a coffee shop. If it's a coffee shop where I know the staff and I'm going to want to talk to them all day, I go to somewhere where no one knows who I am. If being by myself is a problem, I schedule a work date with a friend. You just create a situation where you have to work. The second, though, is should you lose a day to Dave the Diver or whatever, don't beat yourself up. Everyone has had the experience of seeing the mountain of work and thinking, nope, I'm out. Right? Like everyone's had that experience. A sort of saying in my home that I find very helpful that my wife and I say to each other all the time, we say it to our daughter as well, is you are not the first person who has had this problem. You know, you, like everyone has had this problem, whatever it is, you know, you are not going to come to your kid's school with a unique problem. They have some way of handling whatever it is. So just know that if you lose a day to being distracted, it's okay. It's okay. Just forget about it and move on. The third is to just pick something off the list and do it, right? Particularly if you're stuck and you don't know what the priority is, forget about priorities. Just pick something and do it. It will create the momentum to do the next thing. It will prove to you that you can do things, which will help fuel you to do more.
Okay, Isaac, I have one more question to conclude this to conclude this episode of Working Overtime. Stay with me.
The IKEA Business Network is now open for small businesses and entrepreneurs. Join for free today to get access to interior design services to help you make the most of your workspace, employee well-being benefits to help you and your people grow, and amazing discounts on travel, insurance, and IKEA purchases, deliveries, and more. Take your small business to the next level when you sign up for the IKEA Business Network for free today by searching IKEA Business Network.
Can I really do this? It's what everyone asks at every new stage of life. Sandy Spring Bank has you covered with personalized solutions to buy a house or improve the one you've got, or to grow your business, because that helps our community grow. We'll show you how to save more for the future, wherever it brings you. What's your next financial destination? Sandy Spring Bank. Visit sandyspringbank.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 406382.
Whatever you think about the presidential campaign circus, one thing is guaranteed. The U.S. Supreme Court is going to be absolutely central to what happens in the coming election, and they've just released a raft of decisions that reach into just about every aspect of your life, from pollution to air travel, abortion rights, gun violence, and of course, presidential immunity. I'm Dahlia Lithwick, and we just wrapped up our Opinion Palooza series on Amicus, Slate's podcast about the courts and the law, where we break down the weedy details of Supreme Court news to make it accessible to real, smart, non-lawyer people like you. It has been a truly mind-boggling 7 weeks of news from the High Court, and we want to make sure that you understand it all. All of the episodes in this series are now available, and if you become a Slate Plus subscriber, you'll get access to a whole bunch of bonus episodes too, like The Court of King Alito, where we examine how this justice's fondness for flag-waving intersects with how he does his day job. Listen to Opinion Palooza on Amicus Now. That's AMICUS, wherever you're listening now.
Hey everyone, I just want to remind you that if you are enjoying Working Overtime, please follow us wherever you get your podcasts so that you never miss an episode. And if you listen on Apple Podcasts, we'd love it if you would rate or review the show. It really does help new listeners to find us. If Overcast is your app of choice, please hit the star to recommend this episode to other listeners.
All right, Isaac, there's only a limited amount of time and a limited quantity of energy for me to play catch up with everything that needs to be done. I can literally do everything I just said, even managing the freeze, but I'm still going to end up in a lot of ways playing chicken with the clock, knowing that I have certain times of day that I work best to complete everything I need to do before I lose the motivation to do literally anything else but the basics. In those times, I'm prone to just going to bed and trying again the next day. What's your strategy? Coffee? Heavy metal?
I believe you know my listening music of choice when I have a lot of work to do is jam bands, but not heavy metal. Look, the responsible thing to say here is that if you still have the energy and focus to do the basics, right? That's what I'm supposed to say, but I want to be honest that like often I don't do that. Often I neglect the basics, in fact, right? Because the basics are often quite low priority, and sometimes that's okay. I want to say that one thing you can do is if there's times of day when you know you're at your most productive, protect those times of day, right? Mm-hmm. I'm at my most productive in the mornings, right? So it's like I try not to have meetings in the morning. Thursdays is when I do my podcast recordings for this show. And so Thursdays is when I try to cram as much non-writing stuff as possible into that day, because already, this is going to throw the day off if I'm thinking about it from a writing perspective or whatever it is. You can just like think through your schedule in some ways. And also, like if you write better in the morning, maybe wake up a little earlier and go to bed a little earlier to maximize the amount of time we call the morning. But also, you're not going to be at full capacity at this point in your life. You're just not. I wasn't at full capacity after COVID or after my father was doing well enough that I didn't have to go back and forth to DC every week or two. You know, like these big life events, they take a toll. And if you're a human being who is in touch with your feelings and in touch with the world around you, which is important to being a creative person, you're going to feel them deeply and they're going to fuck you up every now and then. And that is okay. And so the thing that happens, which you talked about a little bit at the beginning of this episode, you're in the unenviable position of having to catch up, which another way of putting it is do a ton of extra work while also not being at your best. And none of that is your fault. And you have to just forgive yourself and be kind to yourself when you're not always up to that task, because it's a huge ask. It's a really huge ask. And I'm talking as much to myself as anyone else because I'm very hard on myself, right? Is that otherwise the anxiety of this will eat away at the mental energy we need to do our work, because all of it's going to processing the anxiety. You know what I mean? So it might be on a given day, you don't get as much done. You take a nap, you go for a walk, you have a good cry, you talk to a friend, you go to a movie, right? That's okay. Like all of this stuff is helping us heal and be human, which will then make you more effective during those free times that you have. At least that's how I think, like with my level of endurance and when I get tired and everything else, like that's the strategy that works best for me. Do you know what I mean? My wife is someone who's really good at marathoning work. You know, she could work for a 12-hour day, get up the next day and do it again. I'm just not wired that way. And so I have to like accept who I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I really appreciate it. And I honestly, I want to say thank you to you, June, Cameron, Kevin, the entire working team, because this has been like a really tough time. Oh, I don't mean to get choked up, but it has been like a really tough time.
It's
and you
all
guys
right,
really let me talk about it like on the show. And I really appreciate that. Like I really don't have any other chances to really like process. And, you know, I have friends and stuff that I talk about this with and all that. But like as a part of my work, like, you know, being able to process it out loud and talk to people who like understand, and for us to be able to channel it to maybe a listener that's going through something like this, it means a lot. So I really appreciate y'all taking the time and humoring me on every one of these sessions that I've talked about this.
Well, I don't consider it humoring you. I think that it's like really important to talk about this stuff. You know, you're going through it right now, so it's raw, which means these questions are coming up, which I think is really wonderful. And I'm really grateful to you for like giving of yourself and not trying to ignore that this is coming up with some random BS creative advice question. You know, I think that most people who do creative work, you know, we're not that great at siloing off these different parts of our lives, right? Because we have to use this as the material. And so one of the nice things about working as a show, I think, is that for an interview show, we do a little less siloing of that stuff as well. You know, we're not the dispassionate third party asking random questions. We're people with real stakes in this stuff who are really interested. And so I really appreciate you bringing it to the show. I think we've all benefited from it. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Isaac. And I'm going to go play Dave the Diver now. That's all the time we have for this episode. But let me leave you with one last piece of advice. I think you should subscribe to Working wherever you get your podcasts. And if you have ideas for things that we could do better or questions you'd like us to address, we'd love to hear from you. You can send us an email at working@slate.com or give us a ring at 304-933-WORK.
If you'd like to support what we do, sign up for Slate Plus at slate.com/working plus. You will get bonus content, including exclusive episodes of Slow Burn and Decoder Ring, and you'll be supporting what we do right here on Working.
Thanks as always to Working Overtime's producer, Kevin Bendis, and to our series producer, Cameron Drews. We'll be back on Sunday with a brand new episode of Working, and in 2 weeks, we'll have another Working Overtime. Until then, get back to work.